What is up, guys? Undic here, and now I'm back, and I've got a special audio video for you today. As the title says, fantasy booking Roman Reigns as Universal Champion. So this isn't something I do very often, but obviously when I got thinking with Reigns winning the Universal title as a heel, a payback and all that, I just got thinking about it really, and I thought, yeah, why not do this? Why not just have a little bit of fun? Think about the next few months as Roman Reigns is Universal Champion. Who can he face? How can it go? All that sort of stuff. And let's just make a video about it and see how I could entertain some people with this. So yeah, it's a real simple concept really. Roman Reigns is now the Universal Champion as a heel, managed by Paul Heyman. I mean, let's face it, a heel run for Roman Reigns we've all been asking for about 5 years now, and here we've got it. I mean, most people are happy. Some people are complaining about it. You probably know who I'm talking about. There's a particularly famous YouTuber who was very upset about this and thought it was shite. But I'm very excited to see this because WWE they need to do something to shake things up for a long time. And turning Roman Reigns heel, that's a great thing. And thinking about it, there's quite a few good possibilities for this. So we're going to do this. And a little spoiler alert, this is going to go all the way to WrestleMania, so we're going to book from now till WrestleMania, where I'm going to book him to lose the Universal title at WrestleMania, but I'm thinking just, Roman Reigns can have a, hopefully, I'm just hoping Roman Reigns can now have the run of his career, the big run that we've been wanting him to have for a long time, and maybe in a year or two he can turn back babyface and be a genuinely big star to babyface. But let's go. So one thing, I'm only going to do it with the SmackDown roster as it is now, because I do take into account that there's probably going to be a draft in October or November, and the rosters might change between now and then. But I'm just simply going to go off the roster as it is now. And just remember, this is all for entertainment purposes, so don't try not to take this too seriously. So let's go. Now we're going to pretty much start as where we are right now. And as it stands right now, because obviously SmackDown's tomorrow night, so I expect an announcement to be made tomorrow about this. The feud going forward is obviously going to be Roman Reigns versus The Fiend Bray Wyatt. Now, this originally was going to be a big feud for WrestleMania 36, where babyface Reigns was going to face heel Fiend Wyatt for the Universal title. And you've got to assume, if not for all this shit, Roman Reigns would have won the Universal title then. But then Vince McMahon, in his infinite wisdom, decided, oh, you know what we should do, right, pal? We should have Goldberg beat The Fiend in Saudi Arabia. Ha 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 ha! That'll be good shit, pal. So yes, so Vince obviously pivoted. Reigns beat The Fiend. Then so John Cena to come back to face Wyatt at WrestleMania. Then we were going to get Reigns versus Goldberg for WrestleMania, but then the whole COVID-19 pandemic thing happened. Then Roman Reigns pulled out of WrestleMania, and yada yada yada. But so anyway, we're going to do that. That's a real simple feud right now. I'm assuming that Bray Wyatt, The Fiend's going to be a babyface now, which it's kind of interesting. Let's see how this one turns out. I'm not convinced it's going to work, but I could be proven wrong. So, Clash of Champions, that's going to be the big Universal title match, Reigns versus The Fiend. Then we're going to have a non-finish here. We're going to have a double DQ. The match is just going to be wild. End up in this wicked brawl where everything just gets fucked up. Then the referee calls it out. So we're going to have a draw here. Now, WWE haven't released all the pay-per-view schedule going forward, but I'm just going to do it on the assumption that the pay-per-view schedule is what it usually is. So Reigns and The Fiend, that of course would lead into a big rematch in October, Hell in a Cell pay-per-view, and this time we're going to do Reigns versus The Fiend inside Hell in a Cell. That would just make sense, right? You have a fuck finish in the first match, then the second match you put it in a scenario where there has to be a winner now, no disqualification inside Hell in a Cell in the October Hell in a Cell, which I assume that's going to be, they're going to do Hell in a Cell in October again, because they usually do, although, no, it was 2 years ago they did it in September, didn't they? They did it in October last year. And don't worry guys, we're not going to get a repeat of The Fiend versus Seth Rollins in this one. It's going to be booked like a great Hell in a Cell match with just loads of hot action, great weapons, and a lot of violence and all that. If you remember, they did have a Hell in a Cell match back in 2015, and that was actually quite a great match. So you're thinking this could be an awesome brawl. Then Roman Reigns is going to go over to defeat The Fiend. Now, is it ideal The Fiend losing cleanly? No, probably not, but I just kind of feel like WWE's already hurt his aura anyway when they had Goldberg beat him. And for the purposes of this, you need to build Reigns as a super hot heel champion, so a big babyface can beat him down the line, and then we'll get into who that is. So Roman Reigns' first feud as Universal Champion, he beats The Fiend in Hell in a Cell 2020. Now we're going to go to Survivor Series, and now for this one, we're going to have a triple threat match, Roman Reigns versus Randy Orton versus Finn Balor. Now this is based on my belief that they'll do the brand supremacy thing again in Survivor Series this year. And also, based on my belief, by the time Survivor Series comes round, Randy Orton will be WWE Champion by then, because I'm pretty convinced he's probably going to be beating Drew McIntyre at Clash of Champions. I mean, most of us thought it would happen at SummerSlam. That did not happen, but I'm pretty confident it will happen at Clash of the Champions. They'll probably do something like that where McIntyre comes in, we're not 100% and Orton takes advantage. And also, my belief this time, my Survivor Series comes around, Finn Balor's going to be the NXT champion, because 99.9% sure Balor's beating Adam Cole next week for the NXT title. So there you go. Yeah, this will be a good match. You got two heels in Reigns and Orton, then a babyface champion in Finn Balor. And this, obviously the storyline behind this is really just Raw versus SmackDown versus NXT. Like, we started out as Raw and SmackDown, and last year NXT got added to the mix, so it's just going to be that. This would be the Survivor Series main event, the three champions of the three brands in WWE. And this would probably be a really good match, to be fair. I mean, Orton can work when he wants to. Finn Balor, still a really good wrestler. And for this one, we're going to have Roman Reigns pin Finn Balor to get the win, to prove himself as the dominant champion in WWE. Now, we've got one more pay-per-view for 2020, then we're going to dive right into 2021. But in the meantime, something else I want to do for this one. So, what I'm also going to do for this one is have Roman Reigns align, the Usos can turn themselves heel, align themselves with Roman Reigns. Then you can have Roman Reigns and the Usos as this dominant faction. I mean, they should have done this years ago, to be honest with you. I mean, sorry. So, right now the Usos aren't on television because one of them's injured. Not sure which one it is, but one of them's injured. And obviously, with the Usos being a twin tag team, when one's injured, the other one usually has to be off TV, because it's kind of the downside of being a twin tag team. When one's injured, the other one can't really have a babyface for him because they're so defined together as a tag team, if that makes sense. But so we'll do it around Survivor Series towards the end of the year, with the Usos come in, hit them, and Roman Reigns become this dominant faction. Not a Shield-like faction per se, but I'm thinking more of like a Samoan gangster, street thug type gang, if that makes sense. So I just think that'd be really cool to have Roman Reigns have his two henchmen as the Usos. You can even possibly turn Naomi heel and have her be the chick of the faction, but that one's not that important right now. So one last pay-per-view, and it's usually the TLC pay-per-view in December. And who's Roman Reigns going to defend the Universal title against at TLC 2020? What about Jeff Hardy? I just feel like this would be a pretty good feud to do. SmackDown don't have a ton of baby faces right now, but Jeff Hardy's always been very over in his career. He's having a really good run in WWE right now since he's come back from his injury. And I think WWE are doing a lot to push Jeff Hardy right now, because they want to make sure he stays beyond his contract and doesn't go to AEW like his brother Matt did. So there you go. So Jeff Hardy can become the number one contender after Survivor Series, and him and Roman Reigns can have a TLC match at the TLC pay-per-view. Story behind this: Roman Reigns obviously should be the favourite, but in this instance, this is Jeff Hardy's match, Jeff Hardy's environment. You'd even build it as like the legend Jeff Hardy's last big chance at the top. Can this veteran Jeff Hardy, after all these years in WWE, get one last shot at the top of the Universal Champion? So build it as that. Build it as Jeff Hardy going for glory, possibly one last time. And you know what you get with this one. This one would be crazy. You do a lot of awesome stunts and all that. I mean, Reigns has had TLC matches before. I'm pretty sure Reigns will be fine in this scenario. This would be, but obviously Jeff Hardy would do Jeff Hardy things. But it's amazing that like Jeff Hardy's like 43 now. He's been doing this for over 20 years. And he can still do a lot of the things that he could do in the year 2000, 2001. Crazy. And the guy never ages either. I mean, he pretty much looks the same as he did in 2008. So, he's just really good stuff. So I think this will be a pretty exciting match where you could maybe do a thing where Jeff Hardy goes for one big last stun, maybe a swanton off the ladder through a table, but Roman Reigns gets out the way. Hardy crashes through the table, and that gives Roman Reigns the opening to climb up and retain the Universal title. So now we're going into 2021, and what's the first pay-per-view of the year? Always the Royal Rumble. Now, and I'm hoping by this point, by the time the new year rolls around, things will be kind of back to normal, and hopefully we'll have fans back in the arena. I mean, obviously I don't know that, because I'm just as much in the dark as all you guys are about when that's going to happen. But just hopefully by the time we get to January, we will be getting proper crowds. Don't get me wrong, there's Thunderdome things good for now, but we really need at some point proper fans back in the arenas. And if you do Royal Rumble, maybe they'll go to a baseball park like they did the last couple of years. In the big Universal title match for the Royal Rumble 2021, Roman Reigns versus Daniel Bryan. Now, when Roman Reigns turned heel, Daniel Bryan was one of the first guys I really thought about Roman Reigns as a heel. Even considered Bryan for Roman Reigns' WrestleMania opponent, but then I got a different idea instead. But yeah, this is a big match I think everyone would want to see. As far as these guys only wrestled one time on pay-per-view, and that was Fastlane 2015, and we don't need to go back to those times of the annoying fan bases, do we? But obviously since then, it looked like they were building to a feud last summer. If you remember, it looked like they were potentially going to do it at SummerSlam last year, but they never did. And then obviously it ended up being Rowan being behind the Roman Reigns' attacks, and then look, the Roman Reigns and Daniel Bryan ended up teaming. But even then, when they did that thing, do you remember it was Rowan and Harper versus Bryan and Reigns? I think it might have been Hell in a Cell last year, actually, I think. Or was it? Yeah, I think it was. So even then, I was pretty convinced that they were going to do the Ric Flair, Arn Anderson, Brian Pillman Sting angle from 1995 and have Bryan turn on Reigns and Bryan being behind the whole attacks to begin with. But no, that never happened. Daniel Bryan just went on as a babyface, and then Rowan went to Raw and Harper disappeared from television. But so now we're going to finally do it in 2020. So Daniel Bryan's going to come after Roman Reigns, come after the Universal title. Yeah, I just think this would be a great feud. You've got the ultimate heel in Roman Reigns, amazing babyface and Daniel Bryan, two of WWE's biggest full-time stars on a big pay-per-view like the Royal Rumble. Feel like this would feel like a big Universal title match on a big pay-per-view. Give this 18-20 minutes or more, how much time it needs really. I think this would be a potential show stealer because he did have a great match in 2015, but just feel like Roman Reigns has improved so much in the ring in the last 5-6 years. Just feel like this will be an even better match now. Potentially a Royal Rumble classic. To be honest, I think this match would be awesome. But let's face it, Daniel Bryan is still pretty outstanding in the ring. I mean, when Daniel Bryan wants to be, he's still in the top 10 in the world, in my opinion, as far as in-ring performance. Just feel like him and Reigns would work so well together. Especially now Bryan's the babyface, Roman is a heel. Fans will be so into Bryan. I think fans will be so dying for Daniel Bryan to win, and you have a few close near falls, but Roman Reigns just about squeaks it out and retains the Universal title over Daniel Bryan. Now this ties into the Royal Rumble now, and who's going to be the winner of the 2021 Royal Rumble? I could go for a Raw guy, sure, but I want to go for a SmackDown guy, and I want it to be for this feud, and the winner of the 2021 Royal Rumble would be Big E. That's right. Just feel like right now they've got a potentially huge babyface in Big E. I mean, if WWE commit to building him between now and WrestleMania, I'm very, very confident Big E will be ready to be a top guy by then. I mean, it looks like they already are trying to build Big E as a top babyface, but over the early days, not at the moment, and just see how it goes. But I'm really quite excited for this one. So you can have Big E win the 2021 Royal Rumble to make himself the #1 contender for the Universal title. Now we're gonna go into the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view. So we're gonna have the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view. Then, if there's a pay-per-view in March, I've got a big main event for that one as well. So we've got the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view. So obviously at this point, Big E is now the #1 contender for WrestleMania. But can Roman Reigns survive all the way to WrestleMania? Well, we'll see. So we're gonna have the 2021 Elimination Chamber. Beef for the Universal title. You've got Roman Reigns as the defending champion. You've got Daniel Bryan, Jeff Hardy. Put King Corbin in there because why not? He's a fairly big level star, I suppose. But then you can have Braun Strowman in there. And then maybe for the last guy, someone solid and reliable like Sheamus. So that would work. So Reigns, Bryan, Hardy, Corbin, Strowman, Sheamus. That would work as an Elimination Chamber match. I feel. Would this be like one of the best Elimination Chamber matches ever? No, probably not. But I feel it'd be fine for what it is, to be honest. I think it'd be okay. Then for this one, you could have it come down once again, like the Royal Rumble. Reigns and Daniel Bryan can be the final two guys. Then you can have a hot exchange. Then you can have Roman Reigns defeat Daniel Bryan again to retain the title, and now it's on. Now Big E versus Roman Reigns is on for WrestleMania 37. So in the meantime, what we're going to do, so if there's a Fastlane or whatever in March, which there may be, I've got an ideal main event for that show. But it doesn't even have to be the main event. They might even have a WWE title match main event. But what we're going to do, we're going to go for a 6-man tag team match. Roman Reigns and the Usos versus the New Day. 6-man tag team action. So yeah, this would make a lot of sense because if you remember, I've got Roman Reigns and the Usos aligned. Then Big E's got his guys in Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods. And this would be a nice match to hold, to keep Roman Reigns and Big E apart on pay-per-view until WrestleMania. Let them have the match. This should be an exciting match, I would imagine. Then for this one, you can have Big E pin one of the Usos. Because don't have him pin Roman Reigns yet, because you don't want to give that away in a 6-man tag team match on a throwaway pay-per-view like Fastlane. So Big E can beat one of the Usos, and then to keep his momentum going into WrestleMania. Then for the last few weeks to build the WrestleMania, I've got two big things happening. First off, you can do a big thing where Reigns and the Usos destroy the other New Day members. So have them just absolutely pulverise, absolutely destroy Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods. Just beat them up to the point where now Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods are out of action. They won't be there at WrestleMania. So now it's like, holy shit, Big E's on his own to face these guys. And then in the last 2 weeks before WrestleMania, in consecutive weeks, you can have Big E attack both Jimmy and Jey Uso on their own, taking them out of the game. So now we get the WrestleMania, and it's Roman Reigns versus Big E one-on-one. No Usos, no New Day members, just two big guys. I mean, this would be great for WrestleMania because you've got Roman Reigns as a heel champion. And if WWE play the cards right and they build up Big E well, so you've got this big, strong, powerful babyface and Big E. I just think this is what I would do for WrestleMania personally. I mean, other people might have different opinions of what they would do for WrestleMania, but for me right now, I'm thinking this should be the Universal Championship match at WrestleMania, Roman Reigns versus Big E. Now, there's an interesting story behind this one. I don't know how many people have heard this story, but as the story goes, in late 2013, WWE were at a point where they had to decide who the next big babyface was going to be, because at that point John Cena was been around for a while, and John Cena probably wasn't going to be around for that much longer. So it was down to two guys, Roman Reigns and Big E, or Big E Langston as he was known then. These were the two guys that WWE were going to consider pushing as the next big babyface. And as the story goes, Vince McMahon was actually behind the idea of pushing Big E as the next guy, I guess. because of his look and his charisma and all that. Vince had high hopes of Big E, and it was actually Triple H that argued for Roman Reigns. Then Triple H and Vince went back and forth, and Triple H was able to convince Vince to go for Roman Reigns, and then Vince did go for Roman Reigns, and Big E obviously ended up in New Day, and now here we are. So yeah, I feel like Big E, I think he's ready to be a top guy in WWE. He's done his time. He was in NXT years ago, came to the main roster right at the end of 2012 as Big E Langston for a while, and obviously the New Day thing since 2014. And in that time, he's found himself as a promo guy, as a wrestler so much. And all these years, I think he's ready, because I think I definitely think he's got far more potential for main event status than Kofi Kingston did. I think Kofi Kingston isn't where Kofi Kingston was a veteran that got hot and just rocked like that, and WWE had to capitalise on it, but I think we all knew it was never going to be a long-term thing. Kofi Kingston was never going to be a long-term main event guy. It was just a situation where he got hot and WWE had to run with it for a while. And I think we all knew once Kofi Kingston lost his title, he probably was going to be out of the main event scene for good. But I think with Big E, it's different. I think Big E could be a permanent main event player. I think he's because I think obviously he's got a better look than Kofi. I mean, he's just got the look. I think he's got better mic skills than Kofi Kingston. He's younger than Kofi Kingston, so there's long-term value. Even the only thing, Kofi Kingston was better in the ring. But let's face it, in WWE, being an awesome in-ring performer is not the most important thing. Never has been, probably never will be. That being said, though, I think Big E's good in the ring. Do I think it's like a Daniel Bryan or AJ Styles level performer? No, but he's at least good. I mean, he can definitely hold his own. I mean, can you really think of many crappy Big E matches? Not really. So this would feel like a big heavyweight fight, and like I say, hopefully WrestleMania 37 is going to be in that big stadium in Los Angeles, but maybe it won't be. Maybe I'm wrong, but hopefully it will be. So hopefully WrestleMania will feel big again this year in a big stadium. And could this be the main event? I would say probably, but I don't know what to do on the Raw side of things, what big match they might have up the sleeves there. But I think there's definitely, if it's not the main event, it should be definitely semi-main event, something like that. So this would feel like a big showdown. Roman Reigns, Big E for the Universal title. Roman Reigns has been dominant for all these months. Big E's been built up for all these months. Both guys have a shitload of momentum. Let's do the match. And this match can go 18, 20, 22 minutes. This doesn't have to be a super long match, but you can do lots of great power spots and all there. Lots of great near falls and stuff like that. Big E kick out Roman Reigns' spears, then Big E can pick Roman Reigns up, hit the big ending, get the 1, 2, 3. Big E defeats Roman Reigns to become the Universal Champion. I think the fans would love it. I really do. I feel like it will be just as. I think it would just be as popular a move as Kofi Mania was. To be honest, I think it'd be great. I think this would be a great WrestleMania main event. Where assuming WrestleMania hasn't been going on for about 12 hours at that point, and the fans aren't asleep, it would get a nice reaction from the crowd. I think this is definitely the way to go, in my opinion. And yeah, so that's it. Roman Reigns goes through all these guys, and Big E's the guys to beat him at WrestleMania, and that's a wrap, guys. So I don't know if I'm going to do any more fantasy booking videos like this. I mean, the only reason I came up with this one is because I was just thinking about it in my head, and I thought, why the hell not? So yeah, that's a wrap, guys, and until next time, peace.